Okay, on today's video, I'm going to talk about shopping campaigns. Specifically, how to optimize the image that you have with a shopping campaign in order to get the maximum results out of your shopping campaigns. I think we all know, and if you don't know, I guess I should say, how profitable shopping campaigns are. If you are selling a product of any type, and even if you don't have an e-commerce checkout, by the way, which I'm going to do a video on this following this particular video, you could do shopping as long as you got the products available on the site, even if they have to contact you first to buy them. Even though I recommend a checkout no matter how expensive it is, if it's possible, you'll get the overall best response from your campaign, even if you do have a two-step process to do it. But this is actually how to get the most, basically number one, clicks, and then also the number two, ROI out of your shopping campaigns. Specifically having to do, and there's several ways to optimize shopping, even if you have smart shopping, which has far fewer options. This is actually the biggest thing that can have an impact on your results overall that I've found with shopping in general. So I'm going to go over how to optimize that product image on your shopping feed, which a lot of people don't consider. Ultimately having to do with, if you've run shopping before, you know that there's a Google Merchant Center involved where you have to upload a product feed, and then that product feed then can be in your Google Merchant Center, can be linked together with your Google Ads account, and then from there you can run a shopping campaign. And so what we're going to do with what I'm telling you here is optimize that product feed to encapsulate a better default product image for the products that you're promoting or wanting to promote through shopping, so that you do get the maximum ROI and the maximum profit that you could possibly make from these shopping campaigns. And it's a whole lot, so you want to stay tuned and watch the whole video and explore this if you believe in shopping, or you're starting out shopping and you do want, instead of making $500,000 a year from it, you can make $2 million a year from it. That's how big of a difference this stuff actually can make, and I've seen it many times. As a side note, before I get into it, also Bing would also apply here. Anything that works on Google, I've always said on my videos, will generally always work on Bing, 99% of the time. So you should try it out. If this works for you on Google, try it out what I just told you on Bing. Run shopping on Bing if you're not already. Take the product image, automatically pretty much what works on Google will ultimately, from these methods I'm about to share, move over to Bing and get you an extra boost, an extra 20-30% additional profit on what you just gained through this method here for yourself once you've gotten it in place for your Google campaigns using the same images that you find, or should say that however you set up your images to get your boost on Google, basically transfers right over to Bing. You can get a little bit more pop on your numbers, your profit numbers coming in from PPC in general. So anyway, as usual on my videos, I have a short list of things that I want to cover here. Tells you the do's and the don'ts, stuff to how to actually get your boost in ROI, how much you can actually get, things to avoid, that kind of stuff. So anyway, the first thing on my list that I want to cover here is just to mention why you want to optimize your images in the first place. So the reason why you want to optimize your images mainly is because CTR, or click-through rate, on your image ad or your shopping ads directly affects, or is directly correlated for our scientific minded out there, directly affects your cost per click, or CPC, that you're paying for a click from the shopping. And I know you're probably saying, well, it's profitable already, so I don't care. It'll be even more profitable when you don't have to pay as much for the same exact traffic. Why not do this? And so with click-through rate affecting so you'll get a higher click-through rate on your shopping ads by doing what I'm about to share with you, and you've went through that process for yourself that I'm going to explain. The cost per click will go down automatically by getting the click-through rate up, because they're directly related. And then of course, if you get your cost per click down, your ROI goes up, because cost per click and click-through rate and ROI are also all directly related. Now, what kind of increase in ROI are we talking about here? It's very routinely, if you go ahead and go through this method, there's going to be a different configuration that works for you, but I'm going to talk about the main things that if you go through this, one or two is going to work for you, and you're going to get this kind of a pop. So it's a big pop. We're talking about, starting out at like a 3-to-1 ROI, you can go all the way up to an 8-to-1 ROI on your shopping just by implementing this technique here. You know, okay, or another way to put it is if you're at 3 or 4-to-1 right now, you can get to 8-to-1, which a lot of people need to get with their product campaigns or greater. Let's just say you can get from a 3 or a 4 to an 8 using this method I'm about to share with you here. Anyway, besides that, though, there is another big benefit to doing what I'm about to share with you, and that is the market share you're able to get will increase by 2 to 3 times in and itself just by deploying the methods that I'm about to get, or method I'm about to give to you here for your business. So why is that? Because click-through rate, if you get a bump in your click-through rate, which you can upwards of basically 2 to 3x the click-through rate on your ads to be able to get you that increase in ROI, you're going to be able to 2 to 3x the amount of market share you're going to be able to grab through that shopping campaign. And for all practical purposes, what you should be trying to do with PPC, given that you've spent all this time to find products to sell and develop them and so on and so forth, to be able to do more so you can suck up more and more and more of the demand on Google, which is just low-hanging fruit for your business to pick up. And if you go beyond what everybody else is willing to do, you will get it. There's just really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's basically what you're, when you're dealing with PPC, the way it is, Google charges market rates for the clicks, what they think they can get, and the market will bear. You do more, therefore you get more ROI out of those clicks. You're going to be able to afford the clicks. Your competition will not. Your competition will lose market share, potentially putting them out of business if you're doing a good enough job. So you'll be able to getting the click-through rate up 2 to 3 times for what it is right now using whatever you're starting with for a product image on your shopping campaigns feed and shopping campaign, or i.e. merchant feed product image. You'll be able to get 2 to 3x increase in click-through rate, and then ultimately market share available through shopping campaigns on Google, on Google, and of course on Bing as well. So for me, that's the big one, because generally shopping campaigns are working for us anyway, especially smart shopping. Since in the last 6 months ago, those really are my default option I'm going with. You can't optimize as much, but if you spend the time, which I'm always going to look to do, to optimize the product image that goes with your campaign, you're going to get a 2 to 3x increase on what that smart shopping campaign can actually do for you. So it already is profitable. Very, very often you can get close to an 8-to-1 return anyway. And instead of making, again, $500,000 a year from that shopping campaign, we can now make $1 million to $1.5 million just by going through these actions here, which it's not the easiest thing that I've ever done to get more money from PPC. There's easier stuff. This has one of the, as far as the shopping goes, this is the biggest thing in terms of impact you're going to have. And because it is not quite as easy to think about, or I want to say the reason why this is available in your market is because people don't realize how much of a difference this makes, which is the stuff you really want to do, because even if your competitors see you do it, they're not going to know why. A lot of times people see their competition has a different picture ad, and then they contemplate how much of a difference does that make, but they don't really go the rest of the way and say, I wonder if that's the reason why their ads show up 2 or 3 times in that 8-pack, shopping 8-pack. Because click-through rate, if you get a high enough click-through rate and a high enough landing page experience score from your ads after people click on your shopping campaigns, Google will show your stuff more than once. For different products, they'll show like 2 or 3 of your products instead of 1 for any given search. That happens all the time. This is one way that you actually make that happen for yourself as well. You got to, of course, have a good site with a good user experience quotient, or you got to be able to give users a good user experience that's at par or better than your competition. But when you layer on this as well, that's when you're going to be able to show up to 2 to 3 times. Of course, the pricing also is a factor. I mentioned this in other videos, but again, this is the big one, bigger than the pricing. Bigger than having keywords on your product pages so that the shopping algorithm can pick up and understand more where to place your ads itself, which are the other 2 big ones. So a lot of people, your competition, when you do this, they see it. They're not going to really, they're going to see something's different. They're going to question themselves. They're not going to probably go ahead and do what you're doing, even though they'll be able to see it for the most part because people are lazy, or they'll just, because it takes effort, they'll convince themselves, and what difference does it make? And so these will be, this increase in profit will be yours to keep for years and years once you got it implemented for yourself. For the most part, I'd say 90+% of the time, I understand what people are willing to do and what they aren't. Therefore, that's why I also use this for myself, because I know it ain't going to be something that I'm just going to do. Our competition's going to mirror it, and then it was a waste of time, given it is a closed system there on Google. Anyway, moving on. What are the ways to optimize your primary image here to get your 2 to 3x increase in click-through rate / market share from these shopping campaigns, and to bring up your ROI close to double where you're starting out with? So as I touched on before, I got a list of things that I would normally go through one at a time to try to see which of these ones are going to work, and there's going to be 1 or 2 that I'll use and the rest of them I won't. Depending on what we're on marketing, it'll vary, but a lot of times you won't know right away and you'll have to split test it. You can easily take a product feed, find what I do is you're going to take the highest traffic product in terms of what's being shown on your shopping campaign now, and take that image, or actually I would take the top 3 and I would split test the images. I would switch them out to something here that you're going to test out and see if that gets a better click-through rate from your shopping on those particular products. And that can be seen through the different settings inside your shopping campaign if that product got more clicks than it did before, and then therefore you'll know how to, at that point in time, to do it for everything. So you don't have to put that much work in initially just to see if this is going to be worth your time or not. But that said, I'm going to go into few different examples along with the things that you can change about your product images here to get the increase in ROI and click-through rate on your ads to get more out of your shopping in general. The first of which here on my list is the diagram measurement. So Google actually allows, what I mean by this is, hardware is the big one, but it could go for anything. You can have a bolt, and you can put a bracket around it that says, here's your bolt, here's your bracket, and it says 2.5 inches. And then whereas everybody else in your space that's selling that same bolt, you're the only one that has that, who do you think most people click on most of the time? It draws the eye, and in order to get in the AIDA model of advertising, attention, interest, desire, action, your attention, you have to get the attention before you can get the click, before anything else. And if you want to, in advertising, you want to be the purple cow. You want to be the different one. If you're the different one, you're going to be the one that gets noticed. And even if you have this, the same ad as everybody else, fundamentally, you get noticed more. You're going to get more of the share. And so adding that will then help, and that could be done for a lot of different things. Of course, you could have a T-shirt technically, and have some measurements and have it say large. There's nothing against doing that per se, because Google does allow it. Now, I can't say that they'll allow it for every single product out there, but that's just a gimme, and it's easy to test. So anything where the consumer, where size is going to be an issue, I would try that out. It's just an easy one to try, see for yourself. By the way, if you don't know if it'll work for you, because there is some limitations to this stuff, you can actually contact support ahead of time, show them what you want to do, get it green lighted, and then you really don't even have to worry risking your results at all. Testing anything, you'll be able to know what you can do, get it implemented. Of course, if you're not going to be able to do it, you're going to get banned in like 2 or 3 days. And then, of course, you wasted your time putting that up, but then at the same time, that's, it'll be, you'll have to try something else after 2 or 3 days. That's the only thing you're going to risk on losing. But I'll usually get in touch with support first through Google. I like personally going through chat support because it's easy to visually display something and get a response in real time. So that's what I would recommend for you. So anyway, with that, I can get usually, in terms of cost per transaction reduction, a 20 to 50% cost reduction for something where that visual measurement, I call it a diagram, measurement diagram. There's no better way to say it. There's no real official term out for that. But where I can use it, that's what kind of benefit we're going to get from it. And that, if we can do it, that's usually the first on my list because it's so easy and such a gimme and such few people are doing it. Sometimes in some markets you have some people actually doing that, they've caught on, so you may have to work on to something else. Now this point is very, very important. Everything that I'm showing you here is about being different. I talked about being the purple cow a little while ago. What you want to do is actually make some novelty searches on Google for products that your shopping ads should show up for right now. Get your products to show up. Look at the 8-pack that's there on Google. Find your ad. Take some screenshots. Search for a few different things. Put them into a file. Study it. Figure out what's going to make what you're doing different. If somebody is doing the diagram, measurement diagram as I just described, then do something else. If they're doing something else, and they're doing the measurement diagram, then find out what people aren't doing besides that. So there might be people doing several things. You want your thing to be the most, I want to say outrageous, because that's the best way to label it. That's going to get the attention the most out of everything else, because that's the one that's going to give you these numbers. So hopefully that's clear. So if you can't use the diagram, it's just not the right product for it. If somebody else, there's 2 or 3 other companies doing it already, move on to the next thing, lighting/shadowing. So there's a term in graphics design called drop shadow. And so, of course, you can do a natural drop shadow in a picture. That drop shadow is just the shadowing on your product. If you take the picture from a different angle, you have a different angle of the shadow, it'll be more or less dense. But same thing can actually be done in just Photoshop. You can just do that. And so, again, if you're looking at your 8-pack, is there anybody else who has a shadow? If not, do the shadow. That one thing can reduce your cost per transaction 10 to 40%. Just that, and it's easy. You don't even have to take the pictures over again, because you could really, if your graphics designer knows what he's doing, it'll look natural as is. Make it look natural. Don't make it look cheesy. Even though that could potentially work and you could try it, I would say just make it look natural. But then with the lighting itself, you can have a little more lighting, a little less lighting. If your product has glare now, use non-glare or no glare, which can easily be edited off or on through Photoshop again, or you could take new photos. If it doesn't have any glare right now, digitally add some glare in there. So maybe that's going to get attention. So you get the general idea there. If that's not going to work for you, or that's not going to make you stand out, why not go on to trying to change the angle or rotation of the product? If you have a watch, everybody's got their watch is shown with the faces up. Try showing the watch from the back end, especially if it's got an interesting back. Now that wouldn't work for a lot of different watches, but if it has an interesting back, definitely try that, because that's something, I've done something similar to that in the past. So that's just a free method if you sell watches. So the angle, you could just be, and if it's all the watches that you're competing against are face on, try just a different angle where it's like 30 degrees on tilt. Of course, and then there's full rotation where you could show the back, or almost all the way to 180 degree angle. So just try all the different angles. Again, you're always going back to what's there now on Google, and then doing something that's as close to opposite from that everybody else is doing. If there's people doing all kinds of random stuff, try something else completely. But what you're always looking for is 80 to 100% of people all doing one thing. If so, do the complete opposite of that. If almost everybody's got it facing forward, go backwards or to the side or tilting. So anyway, you get the general picture. I think I got that across good enough. I'll move on. The next thing is no background or an added background. So when I say background, there's only so many backgrounds actually allowed, and this is one you'll definitely have to get checked with support ahead of time. But if you have a grill, having that grill on a picnic table showing it's in use, that will get you usually a huge jump on your click-through rate and you get your numbers here, versus, especially when, well, I should say utterly or particularly when everybody else has a white background. Everybody else sticks with white background because it's the easiest to manage. All products on the site can easily be scaled with a white background, and whereas some would work with a lifestyle background, it's not only harder, it's more work. Sometimes it wouldn't work, and you can't universally keep things the same. So if you have to make a change on your site, it's hard to maintain on your site because not everything can be treated universally the same, as you know. So there's a bunch of reasons why people don't do this, even though it makes sense. Why wouldn't you have a lifestyle photo? Because that helps demonstrate the product better. Because of those reasons, you can be the one that potentially has a lifestyle photo there of it with the background there. You know, for all practical purposes, all the famous mail order businesses, they always have, well, I shouldn't say always, but like a Sears catalog, they never use plain white backgrounds. That's not the ideal way to demonstrate a product. Yes, it's going to take more work, but if you're literally making $1 million a year on your shopping now and you had a lifestyle photo for every product in store and you even have a couple hundred, I mean, what's that going to cost? 20, 30 grand to hire a photographer to come in and do that for you? Realistically, obviously, if you sell camping goods, you can do all of them in the same location with a slightly different angle and placement and all that, and you're going to make that back in 3 months or whatever. So that's just a gimme. If nobody else has a background, use the background. 99% of the time, that's going to get you a similar jump to get you like what I'm mentioning here. Typically, on average, you're going to be able to get once one of these things has been tested and proven and rolled all the way out for you for your business as well. The last one I have on my list, there's more, but this is, you know, I guess one that I also mentioned just a while I'm on the topic. Angle rotation, that I should have probably listed here officially. If the or same thing, kind of like with the diagram measurements. If you're selling something that moves, have, you know, like in cartoons where somebody's running, there's lines around the person, so you can tell like that person's in an action. Do that with the product. If something vibrates or it turns, show some, you know, graphics around the product. You can actually do that. A lot of people, they don't think that they can, but you can. I don't want to guarantee you can. Check with your support, but it's definitely worth trying if you have anything that moves or is supposed to have an action in it. So people could, it's just an easy way to display. Your job is to show people on Google what you're going to get on the other side of that ad as best as you can. So that's just one easy way for the user, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you help the user, you're going to make more money because Google is going to charge you less, and you're going to get more uptake rate from the user. You should always be thinking about user, 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 user. If that helps them identify whether or not what your product does, for sure, without having to question it, even though it should be obvious, you made it just a little bit more obvious than most of your competition. You're the one who gets the money. They don't. It's just, you know, it's just really that simple. But anyway, the final one I wanted to mention here, the model holding or not holding the image. For clothing, this is, you know, it should be standard, but a lot of times, like if you sell coats, there might be 1 or 2 people that have an actual model with the coat on, but everybody else will have, like out of 8, 6 of them will be white background. So I can guarantee you pretty much in that case, those 2 people doing it are getting better numbers. But this could be done for a lot of different things. What if you sell furniture and there's drawers? You sell a really heavy-duty clothing bureau. What if you stood? So basically, you're demonstrating. It doesn't have to be clothing. A lot of people don't think this way, but I've tried this. It's really outside the box and really works. And anything again that's outside the box is going to be where the huge profits, the abnormal profits come from. But you just stand on that box and take a picture of the model standing, demonstrating that that thing can be, it's tolerant of abuse, it's heavy duty. Again, that helps the user understand which ad to click on, because either that entices them or it doesn't. And of course, if the market wants something heavy duty as a whole more than not, you are the one who's going to now get all that traffic funneled to you at a 2 to 3 times the rate than you did before. And then you just have to do that for every product you have in store. Yes, it's a pain, but tripling the profit on a shopping campaign, there's like almost, unless you're a really small operation, there's really no way that's not going to pay off for you from what I've seen. And what I've said in the past, if you don't want to do 300 products and SKUs that you have to do this for, Do it for 10, earn some money, stack it. Do 10 more, earn some money, stack it. Finance your initial results for the future results. If people say they don't have time or money to do something, that's my always response for them. But, of course, if you have a ring, you should test having the person wearing it. As long as not everybody is wearing the ring on your 8-pack on Google. If everybody is, then try it with a white background. So there's no reason why you can't use a white background. Most important thing is that you're different. Of course, if you have you're selling bowling supplies and you have your glove, it should definitely be on your hand. Ultimately, if you have a work table, show the person working on the work table. It doesn't really sell the user or explain. I shouldn't say. It's way ideal if you could show and demonstrate a little better how that product performs by taking the action and having the model do an action or is wearing it, the product, or so on and so forth. But just the fact that you have a photo there with somebody actually working on an axle or something on that workbench in the garage versus everybody else that has just the workbench there, you're going to be, again, the one that gets these numbers 2 to 3x more than you were getting from shopping just by having that one thing implemented on your campaign, i.e. your product fee that goes into your campaign. But with all that said, I jumped over a little bit of the results here. Now, I looked at all the different product image shopping campaign images that I've kind of tested in the past to give you an idea of a rough guesstimate on how much each one of these things have kind of done it in the past. I mentioned the cost per transaction reduction on what it costs to actually make a sale once implementing each one of these things. Initially on the diagram, we're getting 20 to 50% reduction in cost per transaction from that. Just in general, it could be closer to 50% if nobody's doing what you're doing and it's totally unique. Whereas if there's 1 or 2 people, but not all 8, you can get maybe closer to a 20%. That's how this range kind of works, just to know. So if it's, and also, of course, how creative you get with it. Being more creative with how you do it, if there is 1 or 2 people doing it, or in general, just how wild it looks to get even more attention than what you would normally think how to do that. Just a straight line with brackets around it. Maybe you do something with a curve. You get the idea. On the lighting and shadowing, you get another 10 to 40% reduction in cost per transaction once you find the perfect angle. With the perfect shadowing, with the strength of the shadow or darkness of the shadow that you need, and with the right glare or not having glare on that product, you want to test the shadowing and lighting both and find the proper combination there to get your 10 to 40%. The angle or rotation of the product, so basically that's one and the same, but you're going to find and it can actually be, I forgot to mention, a horizontal angle, but also you have vertical, so you can take a picture of the product at a top angle, which is an option, but you're going to test what actual angle the product is in reference to the camera, both horizontally and vertically, and you can get up to a 20 to 50% reduction in cost per transaction if that one is if that one out of the 6 things I mentioned here is the most appropriate. That's what kind of potential results you're looking at from that specifically. The last 2, the background versus no background. Like I said, using a grill on in a camping situation versus on a white background, you're looking at the most results out of the ones I mentioned before, 50 to 90% reduction in cost per transaction, because you're actually adding a lot more utility to the whole process. That grill with no food on it, and you can't see the physical size of how many burgers it has and hot dogs, that's what you can have huge results from something like that. And the same thing with the model holding the image but not holding the image, somebody standing inside the drawer to show that how much weight it can hold versus other cheap crap, imported crap from another country that people don't want, and then to be able to show before they even click on the ad what kind of quality you have. You can get up to 50 to 90% reduction in cost per transaction from something like that, and can be huge because there's a lot of creative ways, as I just described there with the bureau example, to be able to get massive increases in your click-through rate, which goes into the increase in ROI that I mentioned above. And the same thing with the background image. Of course, it takes time and it is expensive sort of to take custom photography for every product because nobody else is doing it. That's where you're going to get your 50 to 90%. So anyway, that goes over what are your options for getting the max results, optimizing your image on your shopping campaign or product feeds that go into your Google shopping campaigns or Bing shopping campaign ads. Hope you enjoyed the video. I have a lot of other videos like this on this channel that goes over other PPC money-making strategies, stuff that I use to guarantee our clients their results. I also have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog where if you want step-by-step instruction on how to build campaigns that are virtually guaranteed to work every time and that we use here to guarantee our clients results, you can pick those up there. But other than that, if you have any questions about a product feed, image selection, testing, that kind of stuff that you may want to try that I haven't, everything that I've tested wasn't mentioned on this video. Maybe there's something I tested that you're considering that I can let you know if it works ahead of time, that kind of thing. Leave me a comment down below. I always get back to everybody who leaves me a comment on this channel. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video and inspired you to test this for yourself and get the major kind of results you're looking at by doing this and being the one person in your space who's willing to go all the way with identifying and optimizing for the user as best as you possibly can using the kind of things I mentioned on this video.